That way you all can, it's going to be a little bit of a fire hose today. So that way you can go back and kind of slowly listen to it if you are interested in what I have to say. But it's so good to be joining you. I'm actually joining you from Arizona. So I'm
Ooh.
quite a ways distance, but thankful for technology that I can come in and visit with all of you. We'll be talking through some of the things on the handout, as well as I'll tell you a little bit about that QR code in just a moment. But I wanted to start with something fun. We're going to talk about your writing personality. This is just a way to kind of get to know each other. And you already kind of went around the room, so I'm not going to take a ton of time with it, but it's just a fun way to identify your personality in writing. The first one is, what is your writing style? Do you need coffee, a candle, and absolute silence? Do you write best with worship music blasting? Do you wait until the Holy Spirit and a deadline collide? And do you write in chaos, kids, laundry, a laptop in your lap? So there is your first one, and y'all can talk about that if you want to. Here is number two. If your manuscript had a soundtrack, what would be on it? Would it be Oceans? I'm out of my comfort zone. Number two, Waymaker. I'm trusting God with every word. Three, Eye of the Tiger. I'm ready to fight for this message. Or four, Jesus, take the wheel. Honestly, I'm winging it. If you're in person or even online, just hold up your finger. You can tell which one you are, so we can see what type of
Wow.
writer, what
Okay,
type
hang
of
on.
soundtrack you would have.
Okay.
Then the next one, if your manuscript describes your writing season right now, number one, you're finding your voice. Number two, you're still wrestling with your words. Number three, you're beginning to see the bigger picture. And number four, I'm trusting God to do what I can't. Go ahead and just share your number. I'm a number two right now, personally.
Three,
So,
three, three.
number four, what do you hope your reader feels by the end of your book? Number one, seen and understood. Number two, empowered and free. Number three, inspired to change. And number four, known and loved by God. Which one would you choose? I see a number four on the Zoom call, so that's great. Thanks, Erica, for sharing that. Number five, what is your biggest hurdle right now? Number one, time. That's mine. Time, time, time. Number two, fear of doing it wrong. Number three, too many ideas and no structure. Or number four, I'm not sure anyone wants to hear my story. What is your current struggle? Go ahead and share that. So today we are going to talk about, thanks for having a little fun. I wanted to start with something that would just let us get to know where we were in our writing journey. But today we're going to look at your message matters, the power of story in ministry, and why your obedience to share matters. We're going to talk about the why, then we're going to move to the how, and then we'll end with the what, with then some encouragement at the tagline. And so we want to talk really about why our message matters. And because publishing isn't really about putting words on a page, it's actually about people. It's about the person who's going to pick up your book and see their own struggle in your story and in your words. It's about the woman who reads the one sentence and she's going to realize that she is not alone. It's about the reader who will encounter a biblical truth in a way that perhaps they have never understood it before, because there is incredible power in story, especially when your story is the ministry God's given you. So, throughout scripture, if you think about it, God uses story to reveal who he is. Jesus invited people into the truth through stories. And in our own personal story, when it's surrendered to God, he can become a bridge that helps someone else encounter his story, whether it be fiction or nonfiction. You may look at your message and think these things. Someone else has already written about this. Someone else knows more than I do. Someone else has a bigger platform. But no one else has been entrusted with your exact story, the experiences that you've had, the voice that you bring, and the people that God has placed in your reach. And sometimes A message begins because one person simply sees a need. This is one of our authors, Debbie Ashley. She's a pastor's wife. And when she came to publish with us, she looked at the women in her own ministry and she saw something. She came to us and said, "There are women in my ministry that need to be strengthened in their faith, women who need encouragement to walk through the challenges of life with God." And so she didn't begin by saying, "I want to be an author." She began by saying, "I really want to help these women." So she wrote the book Faith Unhindered, and she weaved her own personal story of faith into the message that was designed to strengthen the faith of others. But her message didn't end there. The journey that she was on eventually led to Faith Refreshed, where she invited women beyond her story and into the story of Jesus, helping them encounter him and walk through his story and allow his truth to transform their own. So she really discovered one need, the message she had, one act of obedience, and then the message grew. And that's what I want you to remember today. Your message matters because the people God is calling you to serve matter. So before we talk about the how to publish, we want to begin with the why. Why this message matters, why God has chosen you, why the readers that are in front of you, and even the question of why now. Because when your purpose is clear, it becomes much easier to determine the right path for getting your message into the world. And so we're going to use the acronym PUBLISH and go through it letter by letter. And you'll see that on your notes. And there are, on my main slides, there's going to be a lot of notes. This is actually a 4 session workshop that I've really pressed down to condense into 45 minutes, maybe 50. But we are if you would like a copy of them, you can take the QR code at the bottom of the page. I'm going to send you a copy of the book, Publisher Message Matters, that we wrote to really help people. It not only identifies how to publish, but also the spiritual battle that you will face within publishing. And then I will also send you my slides so that you can get all of those details. You don't have to do it right now. You can do it after we have our session today. You just scan it with your phone, click on the link, add your name and email, and I'll send all of that to you. So we're going to start now with P, and that is the purpose. We start with your message and your mission. Before you decide how you're going to publish your book, you need to know why you're publishing it in the first place. And I think that these questions are really important for those who are ministry minded writers because we get so focused on the book that we sometimes forget about that person that's sitting on the other side of it. We start thinking about titles and covers and publishers and how we're going to leverage other venues and other outlets to get our book out there. We dream about holding that book in our hand and it's exciting, but your book is not the purpose. Your book is actually the vehicle. The purpose is that you want God to do what you want God to do through the message that you're carrying. And that's why I want to start with these two things, your message and your mission. Your mission or your message is what you have to say. Your mission is why it needs to be said and who needs to hear it. And when those two things come together, you're going to begin to understand the purpose behind your book. So I want you to look at the P section of your worksheet because we're going to work through 4 questions. Now, if you already have a book in progress, this is a great way to remind yourself why you're writing. And it's the perfect tool when you write to keep you on track and also when you get stuck so you can come back to your main focus. So these questions are important for every project that we do or the ones that are out that we try to market. So let's talk about the first thing, and it is what is the core message of your book? Not the whole book, not your chapter outline, not everything you need to know about the subject. But if you could sit across the table from your ideal reader and tell them one thing, what would that one thing be? Maybe it's something like God is still faithful in the middle of grief, or your past does not have to define your future. Or prayer isn't just something we do, it's an invitation to a relationship with God. You see, your book can include dozens of stories, scripture, lessons, ideas, but underneath all of them, even in fiction, there should be this core message that holds everything together. And here's where writers sometimes get into trouble because we try to say too much. We have 12 different messages that we're trying to cram inside one book. So, clarity in this area is very powerful. The clearer you are about this core message, the easier it is to decide what belongs in the book and what doesn't. So, you can ask yourself the question, if my reader only remembers one thing from this book, what do I want it to be? And that's what you would write down and keep that in front of you. The second question is, who is my ideal reader? And it's just as important because we need to discover who needs the message that God has given us. And the answer cannot be everyone, because when you aim
Oh.
at everyone, you're actually aiming at no one.
Mm.
Um, I know we want everyone to read our books, but when you write for everyone, you usually connect deeply with no one. So think about the one person. It doesn't mean that your message won't expand beyond it, but we have to start somewhere. Who is the person? Where are they in their life? What's keeping them up at night? What is she struggling to understand or even praying about? What have they tried before, but it hasn't worked yet? What does she need from you? When I write, I want to be able to picture the person sitting across from me because now I'm not writing to an audience of thousands. I'm writing to the one. I'm having a conversation with her just like I would if I was sitting across the table from her. And here's something else that's important. Your ideal reader will affect more than your writing. It's going to affect your title, how you market, where you speak, what podcast you're going to be on, what social media platforms you use, and even the publishing path that you take. Because if you don't know who you're trying to reach, it's very difficult to create a plan to reach them. So don't just ask who can read my book. Ask the question like this: who needs the message I have been entrusted to share? Then the third question is this: what change do I want to make, or do I want the Holy Spirit to create in their life? Because now we're moving from a message to the transformation. Your reader comes to your book in one place. Where do you want them to be when they close it? This is where we begin thinking about the journey that you're asking your reader to take. So, for example, when I wrote my very first Bible study, I'm a Bible study author. When I wrote my very first Bible study, my aim, my message that I really wanted to see the transformation in their life was that everything we do is worship. And I remember going to a Bible study group that I was going to speak at, and the women were sitting around a table talking about what they had learned that week. And the last question they were to answer is, what did you get out of this week's lesson? And one woman shut her book and looked up at me and looked around at the room and said, I think what I'm learning is that everything we do is worship. She hit it on the she hit the nail on the head. She knew exactly, or God was using my study, the words that I had wrote, to show her in her own life that everything we do is worship. Now, it doesn't mean they're not going to get other things from it, but my aim, where I set out to the direction I set out to go on, was exactly where she landed. So this is where we begin thinking about that journey that you're asking the reader to take. Maybe they have been discouraged and you want to leave them with hope. Maybe they have been confused about scripture and you want to leave them equipped to study God's word for themselves. Maybe they are feeling grief and you want them to leave knowing that God is present with them. Maybe they're even overwhelmed by parenting and you want to give them practical tools and renewed confidence. You're essentially asking this question: what will be different because they read this book? And notice I didn't say, what I want them to know? Because information is important, but especially in the ministry of writing, we're looking for something deeper. We're looking for transformation. What do you want them to believe? How do you want them to think differently? What action step do you want them to take? You may even consider, how might the relationship with God deepen? Your message becomes more powerful when you're not simply asking, what do I want to tell them? But where am I inviting them to go? And then you need to decide, the fourth question is, what does success look like for me? Now, success sometimes can be a term that we shy away from, but we really need to embrace it because we have a message God's given us, and success then demonstrates how God is allowing us to share that message because He has transformed our lives. And when other people read it, we have the opportunity for Holy Spirit to transform their own. So let's look at success. Now, this is a
Yes.
question we need to address before we publish because it's going to really determine the steps that we take. Because this success looks different for books. Is success to you selling 10,000 copies?
Yes.
Maybe, but
Yeah.
maybe success is using your book as the foundation of a speaking ministry or getting it into hands of women at a recovery center or into the hands of people in your church congregation. Maybe it's creating a Bible study that people can use in small groups or building a ministry around what God has given you, opening doors to speak. Perhaps you need to establish credibility in your field or create something that your children or grandchildren will have long after you've gone. Tina talked about the gospel in Pakistan long after she's gone. That is a successful book that is able to continue the mission um, far beyond what we can accomplish. But you really need to discover what is your goal because your definition of what that looks like, what your success looks like, influences every single publishing decision you make. If your goal is widespread book distribution, one path may make more sense. But if it's primarily selling it at speaking events or book fairs, another path may be better for you. If you need 500 books for a ministry initiative 6 months from now, that changes the conversation of how you publish. And if you want to pursue a long-term traditional publishing career, that changes it again. This is why we don't start by asking which publishing path is best. We really ask which publishing path is best for my message, my mission, my goals, because there isn't one right answer for every author or even for every project. There is a right fit answer for you and the current book you're doing. When we think about it, we think clarity of our purpose leads to a greater impact. So think about those questions. What is your core message? Who is your ideal reader? What change do I want to make in their life or the Holy Spirit really make in their life? And then what does success look like? The four answers now become this filter for every decision that we're going to make moving forward. So when someone offers you a publishing opportunity, you can ask, does this support my purpose? And when you're deciding on what to include in your manuscript, you can ask, does this serve my message? And when you think about marketing, you can ask the question, is this going to help me reach my reader? Because the goal isn't simply about getting a book published. The goal is getting the right message to the right people in a way that creates impact. And that's why we start with key purpose. Start with your message,
Change for
start with your
change.
mission, because clarity of purpose leads to greater impact. All right, we're ready for you. You is understand. U is for understand your publishing options. And when we talk about our publishing options, there are three different basic ways that you can publish. There's traditional publishing, hybrid, and independent publishing. But I do want it to come back to a ministry mindset because we view publishing as stewardship. It's reframing success through the kingdom impact that God has given us. And when we think of it this way, it changes our question of how do we get our book published to what is the best way to steward this message and get it into the hands of the people who need it. And that's a very different question. It also means that we need to reframe what that success looks like. It doesn't mean that numbers and sales don't matter. They do, but if we want our message to reach people, we need to think about the business side of publishing. Sales are a measurement of reach, but not ultimately the definition that we have for impact. So we ask, which path is going to help me best steward my message by accomplishing my mission and reaching the people that I'm called to serve, because every path has something different. I'm going to briefly go over the three different paths for you. So the first one is traditional publishing. Traditional publishing is what a lot of people picture when they think of getting their book published. In this model, the publisher makes the financial investment in your book. So they typically will handle professional editing, your cover design, interior, the production, the printing of your book, and the distribution. You don't pay the publisher to produce your book. They are essentially investing in you and in your project because they believe that you are going to sell it. And because they're taking a financial risk, they also will retain the significant control over the project. So, how do you get a traditional publisher? Well, for many, especially the large houses, you need a literary agent. So, this means that your goal is not getting a publisher to say yes, it's actually getting an agent to say yes to you. And in order to do that, you typically need a very strong book proposal that clearly communicates your concept, the hook, your audience. So, those questions that we talked about are really important. Why you're qualified, your platform, how many followers you have, how many email subscribers you have, the marketing plan that you have, why this particular book has market potential. So, traditional publishers aren't only asking the question as to whether your message is meaningful, they're really asking the question, can you sell it? And that's the business side of traditional publishing. Now, there are some pros and cons. There are significant advantages. You have an experienced publishing team working for you. Your publisher is going to make that upfront investment. You may have a broader distribution opportunity and greater access to certain parts of the traditional book industry, but there are trade-offs. The process can be slow, sometimes 18, 36 months, even more. You will typically have less creative control. Your royalty percentage or your profit is generally lower. And you may give the publisher the certain rights to your work depending on your contract. They own the content that is in the book. And so you have to determine, well, who's a really good fit for this? And that would be someone who has a growing platform, someone who's really willing to be patient, someone who wants that experienced publishing team and is comfortable with sharing the creative control and interested in even in building a long-term career. So we go in with eyes wide open. Remember, the publisher's investment in your project in the traditional industry gives them the voice in the decisions. So your title may change, your cover may not be what you envisioned it to be, your manuscript may go through several revisions, your publication date will be determined by their schedule. That doesn't make traditional publishing bad. It simply means that you need to understand what you're saying yes to. I currently have two traditionally published books in the works. I turned my final edited manuscript when I worked with the editor back in February, and it's July, and I've heard nothing, nothing, because it's their timing. They get to decide when it's coming out, when it's going to print. Um, Hopefully, I'll hear something soon, but it's a very different journey. So we also want to make sure that we beware of imposters. Here's what you need to be careful of if you are working with a traditional publisher, because just because someone calls themselves a traditional publisher doesn't mean they operate like one. So if a so-called traditional publisher accepts your manuscripts and then requires you to pay for editing, production, mandatory book purchases, you need to look carefully at that business model, because in true traditional publishing, the publisher is investing financially and bringing the books to market. So know what you're signing, ask lots of questions, read the contract, and understand where the money flows. Number two, the second path is hybrid publishing. So hybrid publishing is a collaborative or like a partnership model. This author is where the author is going to make the financial investment, but instead of managing the entire process alone, you're partnering with a professional team. So, a strong hybrid publisher provides editing, design, production, distribution, support, marketing coaching, and guidance throughout the entire process. You typically should retain the creative control, the ownership, the copyright, and your potential book earnings will be higher as you make the majority of the profit because you're the one that invested the money. For the right author, this type of publishing can provide a combination of professional support and author ownership. Now, there are pros and cons to this as well. The advantage is that you don't have to wait for a traditional publisher to choose you. You can often move forward on a faster timeline. You get greater input into your book, but still have that professional team to help you work through the process. But the obvious trade-off is it's financial. You're making the investment. And this means that you need to understand exactly what you're paying for. So, who is the best author profile? A hybrid publishing may be a good fit for authors who want professional guidance and support. They value creative control. They have the financial resources to invest. They want to move forward with a more predictable timeline, and they're willing to actively participate in the marketing and building their platform. Now, just because you're investing financially, you need to think like both an author and now a business owner. So with eyes wide open, you don't just ask how much it costs. You need to ask, what are you receiving for the investment? Who's editing? Who owns my files? Who owns the copyright? What are the print costs? What happens with my royalties or profit? How is this book going to get out into the world and distribution? What happens after my book launches? Am I just left out there alone, or does this hybrid publisher support me? And what kinds of marketing support could I receive? You need to understand what that publishing relationship looks like. And then you need to beware of predatory companies because
Yes.
this is where it can really become confusing. There are excellent companies that do fall prey on an author's dream. I'm sure many of you have experienced this. As soon as you get a book out there, you get all of these offers. I want to make your book into a movie. I want to publish your book. I want to promote you. I want you on this podcast, but you need to pay me $125. Like,
Yes.
this is the award that I want you to be a part of, but it's going to cost you $1,000 and you have to pay for your certificate and all of the things. Beware in this industry, there are so many predatory people. And so you want to ask questions like, is this publisher actually reviewing my work? Do they accept everyone or are they selective? Do they care whether my book is ready or not? And are they willing to tell you what needs improvement? Or do they just say to you, your book is amazing, we want to publish it? A true publishing partner should
Right.
care about the quality of your finished book. We just this morning sent an email to someone who turned in a manuscript and we told them this is what you need, and they told us I don't want to do any of that coaching or publishing, and we said sorry, we're not the right partner for you because we want you to have an excellent product, and that's what you need to look for. And then you're not simply just buying some publishing package. It's not a click, spend this much money and upload your manuscript and you're good to go. You want to choose a partner who's going to be passionate about your message as you work through it together. And then third, we have independent publishing. So independent or self-publishing, this is where you are the publisher. You are going to manage every aspect of the publishing process yourself. So you're going to maybe hire some freelancers to do the work. You can publish directly through platforms such as Ingram Spark, KDP, all those different places you can enter into. The barrier to this entry is incredibly low. And technically, you can write a book, upload the file, and make it available for sale very quickly. But here's what
Oh,
I want
yeah.
you to remember. Easy to publish doesn't mean easy to publish well. One of our sayings is you can self-publish, just don't look like it. So here are some of the pros and cons. You have maximum control. You own your content. You make the decisions. You determine the timeline. And depending on how or where you sell your books, you may retain a larger portion, if not all, of the revenue. But you also carry all the responsibilities. So you need to figure out who your editors are and trusted editors, cover designers, interior formatters. You need to get your ISBN. You need to figure out distribution and how you're going to put it out there with the metadata. You need to figure out your pricing and your marketing, and someone has to manage it all. You can hire professionals, but now you're the one responsible for finding them, vetting them, paying them, and coordinating everything about your project. So, who is the best fit for an independent publishing? It's someone who does want the control, who is comfortable managing complex projects. It's someone who is willing to learn the publishing business, that you have access to trusted professionals and you're willing to find them. And some of the eyes wide open is here's what I really want you to understand. Independent publishing doesn't mean that you're doing everything yourself. It means that you're responsible for getting everything done. And again, even in traditional publishing, oops, sorry, wrong slide. I'm not very good at running my slides while I talk.
Okay.
Even with traditional publishing, you are you really need to be aware of predatory companies that say they will help you. And so this is where we go back to the ministry mindset is there's three paths, traditional, hybrid, and independent, but there is no one right way. It really does fit your message and your mission. So you have to determine what is best for you because your message does matter, but so does the path in order to get it out into the world. Then we have B, which is build, and this is building your platform and your foundation. So once you know your purpose, you understand your publishing options, you need to start building. And you can do the two things at the same time. You can build your platform and your foundation. Your platform is the people that you can reach. It's not just about social media, because no matter what publishing path you choose, you need a platform. It's not just about the numbers, it's about connection. I personally would rather have 500 people who trust me and want what I have to say than have 10,000 people that just scroll right past me. So ask yourself the question, where are my readers already gathering and how can I begin to serve them now before they even buy my book? That is how you build your platform. Your platform is there to really amplify your message. Your foundation helps you ensure that you're ready when the opportunity comes. So the platform amplifies your message. The foundation helps you be ready when that opportunity comes. So ask the question, what can I begin building today that will help my message reach further tomorrow? And we have the L. And L is look at the investment because every great book requires investment. No matter which publishing path you choose, your book is going to require some funds. The question is where that investment comes from and what it will look like. So you're not just talking about money. We're talking about time, money, of course, and the energy that you are going to put out. You're investing money somewhere along the way, and you are investing your time because you have to write the book and you have to spend time building the platform and discovering all the different ways that you need to get your book out. But there's also an investment of energy. And I think sometimes we underestimate this one because publishing can be a really long journey. There's edits, decisions, deadlines. You're going to be disappointed at times. And when you finally hold the book in your hand, you realize the work of getting that book into the hands of readers was just the beginning. So before you choose a publishing path, look realistic at what you have available in this season. How much time can you give to this project? Is writing for you a hobby or is it a business? Because if it's a business, you will actually carve time out to get the product done. And then how much can you invest? And how much energy or capacity do you currently have? How much bandwidth do you have within your current schedule? And think about it through the lens of stewardship. Because the goal isn't to spend the most money or move the fastest, it's to wisely invest what you have in a way that serves your message and your mission best. And sometimes it may mean that this is not the right season. And that's really valuable clarity too. Because remember, in P for purpose, we know what success looks like. Now, that definition of success determines where your resources should go. So ask yourself, what investment of my time, money, and energy am I prepared to steward my message well? Because you're not just investing in producing a book, you're actually investing in giving your message the best opportunity to reach the people who need it. All right, here we go. I like this one. This one's fun. Insist on excellence. Your message deserves the right form, and your readers deserve the best. So when we create our book, our manuscript, we need to start with our development. We want to choose the right form for our message. And that means your genre. So before you can have the excellent manuscript, you have to determine the type of book your message is meant to become. What am I trying to accomplish with this? So you can um, walk through some of these core questions. Are you telling a personal story? Then perhaps memoir or spiritual memoir would be your genre. Am I teaching or guiding others? Then it's Christian living or spiritual formation. Am I offering reflection and application? It could be a devotional or a gift book. Am I equipping my readers to deeply engage with scripture? It could be a Bible study or a doctrinal book. Am I sharing truth through an imaginative story? And that's where you have fiction and historical fiction, contemporary, even evangelistic, Western, and speculative. Or maybe you're helping children to find a truth. And so there are several different genres that you can choose from. And genres are important because not only do they help you recognize your the way that you're going to frame your manuscript, but it also helps the person in the bookstore know what shelf to put it on. And so it's really important that you're not trying to do six different genres in one book because there's no place on a bookstore shelf for that. Maybe an end cap. We'll see. So there are some different book covers that show different types of genres. And then we have the fiction genres, and fiction obviously is a very wide scope of different types of subgenres that go with that, where you can take like Gideon's book and you're telling a true story through the lens of fiction, through a novel. Same thing with Shep and the King of Hearts. It's a woman who told her father's story. Then there's historical fiction. There's a evangelistic fiction where his name is John Whitman is one of the most amazing ways to explain the gospel in such a practical way. The Haunt for Owls is Western. Hazel Atlas and The Door to Ore is speculative. So there's lots of different ways that even through a novel, we can bring the truth of what God says in his word. Then we need to ask about our voice. Who's telling the story? Is it my voice and my story? Am I teaching principles? Do I want to disappear behind the story, behind the book, and allow it to begin to grow? And then developing your manuscript. How do you want your reader to engage in the book? That's another very important question to ask because it will determine what types of verses you use, question techniques, pauses in your book for your reader to pause and consider what you're teaching. Maybe you're entering a world through imagination and they're going to learn values through story and imagery. Developing how you want your reader to engage with the book is another crucial aspect of writing your manuscript. And really, your manuscript needs these five elements. There is a promise. So, what are you promising the reader is going to gain? There is the path. So, we determine the journey that we're taking our reader on. There is proof. So, what is the credibility to what you're teaching? Is it scripture? Is it research? Is it personal experience, insight? Is it the story that you tell? And then practice. How is the reader actually applying what they're learning? And finally, and always, prayer. Where are you pointing the reader beyond themselves to dependence? As you get into your manuscript, and these are all pretty much workshops that you could take singularly, but really think of that frame, the framework that you're setting up with hooks and stories and scriptures and takeaways, and having that great balance of storytelling and teaching within your book. And then editing. Everyone needs an editor. We will have people come to us with a manuscript and say, God gave me this story and it's ready to go. And we're like, we'll give it back to him because he needs an editor. And so make sure that you don't
Oh.
skip this process. You have to edit. Have someone who knows something, whether you're self-publishing or you're hybrid publishing. And if you turn it into a traditional publisher and it needs more than just like a basic line and copy edit, they're probably going to ask you to go work with a coach. Um, Figure out what lane you actually need to be in, because developmental editing is going to, and cooperative rewriting is going to help you with, the greater content of it. Sometimes you just need a ghostwriter. You need somebody to come in and basically redo it for you or write it with you. And then line editing is where you work on smaller content areas. Copy editing is the grammar, punctuation, the consistency, and style. And then proofreading is that final place that you go
Mhm.
before you publish. If you're doing this on your own, I highly recommend the last three levels of editing are non-negotiable. And sometimes it requires three different editors because editors have specific gifts and lanes that they are in. So I'm going to tell you a little bit a story about Athena. She is the founder of Redemption Press, and she began. This is her very first book cover. You can see that she did this book all on her own. She thought she was pretty cool doing the 3D graphics with the fire. And as she wrote this book, she determined there was a lot of mistakes in it, and she needed to redo it. So she came out with the revised and expanded. And so the second cover that she was much better for the late 80s, I believe it was when this came out, and was much more desirable to look at because covers really do matter. And then she had this was her first sentence. So the first paragraphs of your book really do matter. And so she started, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically it started with consumed, eaten alive, and I didn't even know it. Just that morning, I had read Mark 8. Do you see that there's typos in it as well? And what shall it profit a man if he gain the whole world and lose his soul? I may have seen the words on the page, but they had not made it into my heart. It had been months now, and my religious routine was on automatic pilot. A quick prayer, a few minutes glancing at a psalm, I couldn't remember the last time I heard God's voice leading me into a deeper walk with Him. I eagerly opened the slim envelope with blue and gold lettering. My check for the month was $21,000, not for the year, but for the month. So that was her first entrance into the story. After she worked with an editor, with her second cover, this became her first sentence. The envelope with its blue and gold lettering was in my hand. My heart was pounding in anticipation. I waved it at my husband, Chuck.
Mhm.
How do you think it is this month? Or how much do you think it is this month? I asked. He gazed up into the air as if sliding an object out of reach. I bet it's 18,000. As I pulled it slowly out of the envelope, I saw the number spill across the check. My payment for the month was $21,000, not for a year, but for a month. Chuck playfully snatched the check out of my hand. Give me that. I'll make a copy and keep it with all the others. Hey, this really proves the dream is real. Now, I thought as I looked around me contentedly, we have enough to live the good life and share with others. We are finally cashing in on all our hard work. So this book is basically on multi-level marketing and how it really destroyed Athena and how having
Haha.
money wasn't the actual answer to what Athena needed. But this opening really does start immediately at that point where it's going to draw someone in. And so working with an editor, she was able to really construct a book that was able to really draw the reader in. And then she also just recently re-released it with a study guide in it, and it's now called Empty at the Top, and really
Mhm.
identifying what the book is about. Exposing, what does it say? Exposing spiritual dangers in multi-level marketing. And so now the reader knows exactly what it is. The cover is compelling, and now the first sentences of the book do draw the reader in. So we're going to talk a little bit about some mistakes that people make within publishing. And this is going to be especially if you are publishing indie publishing or hybrid publishing. So let's just look at a few things. I have lots of examples and hopefully we'll get through it. And Tina, when you want to stop, I have probably another like 10 to 15 minutes. If that's fine, I'll keep going.
Don't worry about the time. Go right
Okay.
ahead.
All right. Here we go. Don't say don't worry about a time to a speaker. All right. So, cover design. Some of the things you want to look at when you're designing your cover or working with someone is making sure that you're not using unprofessional fonts, that you're following the genre conventions that are already out there. Just because it looks good to you doesn't mean it's going to look good to someone who doesn't know you. Your family may love it, your friends may love it, but we want to reach people beyond our circle. Our family and friends are going to buy whatever we put out there. We want to reach a larger audience. So here are some of the covers. I'm just going to go back and forth and show you before and after with several covers that came to us when they published. So the first one is a book called Faithful, The Unexpected Journey to Motherhood. And this cover at first glance may not seem bad, but really there's nothing on it that pops. There's nothing that really draws a reader to it. It's a cover that you're just going to walk by, a basic font on it that's kind of popular out there in the farm kind of house era. So it's a little bit dated. And then the maze kind of maybe gives a little bit of a confusion. But what we came up with was this cover, Faithful, An Unexpected Journey to Motherhood. This book stops a reader in um, in their tracks to pick up the cover of this one. Then we have a book called Unmothered by Phyllis Mantelli. This is all about her mom and how she basically abandoned her when she was younger and didn't pay any attention to her. If you look at this cover, you would think first off that this book is a Catholic book, that it has to do with a rosary. Perhaps the mom is Catholic, but that's what stands out to me in this. And yes, indeed, the mom was Catholic, but that's not what the book is about at all. It's about Phyllis's journey in the abandonment. And so we came up with Unmothered, Life Without a Mom Who Couldn't Love Me. And this then, with the child standing there forlorn, looking into the ocean or into the sunrise or sunset, this gives a picture of Phyllis's journey. Then we have a DIY cover. I remember when this cover came across our path, it was actually on its way to publication, and I stopped the presses. I was like, who approved this cover? And so we took this cover. It's very self-publishing looking. She had done it herself, and she was pretty proud of it. She took one image from inside and took the background off and slapped it on the front with a font that's very outdated. And we took this cover, we found an image inside and was able to create the fruit of our love. This speaks so much more to children. It basically follows the pregnancy journey of the mom, and it talks about how inside the mother's womb, the size of the baby as it progresses through until birth. And so that's why it's called the fruit of our love. Then we have Fighting Our Battles, and this is the image. Kim wanted this image so desperately because it was on the path, the picture she took on a road that she traveled when she was a child. The problem is that picture doesn't speak to number one, her book. It speaks to like one, couple paragraphs in it, but the reader doesn't know that yet. This picture does not connect with the reader because they have to read the book in order to understand what this picture means. And so creating a cover that really does talk about the freedom that you will experience as you allow God to help you fight your battles. So, fighting my battles with God on my side. Then we have Brave Enough. This was a curriculum that we rebranded. And so, Brave Enough, I mean, the image is not bad, but we wanted to really give it an update. And then we also wanted to brand it within all of their ministry. And so, we came up with a very kind of fluid design that could be used in every aspect of their ministry, from children all the way through the adult ministry that they walk through this workshop or this program with. Lori came in with this cover for Psalm 119. It's actually a pretty decent cover. I kind of liked it when it first came in, but as we continued working through her Bible study, she actually came to me and she said, Carol, I know we met. I'm ready to upload my Bible study to KDP. Would you mind looking at it? And I said, well, I don't mind looking at it, but as long as you don't mind if I'm honest. And she brought it in and I said, this is not ready. And we actually spent the last year going through her book step by step, her Bible study, making it a Bible study that would be very wide audience where women can use it in their ministries as well as individually. and it's now beautiful. And we came up with this cover, which really does pop off the shelves. It speaks to women, which is who our audience is, instead of being kind of a generic type cover. Fresh Baked Lives is a novel. This cover isn't bad, and Gloria's book actually releases in the next couple weeks, but this is the cover that we got first for it, and we worked with her and back and forth. It probably took us 6 months just to get the cover right for this one, and this is the Fresh Baked Lies that is now going to release, and she
Mhm.
has a trilogy for this series, so we made sure that we put that on the front as well. Then we have this one. I don't know, Mary, you might remember Kim Cusimano at Speak Up Conference. We got to give her her book for the first time. She was like the cover designer. She came every single week when I was coaching with her. She probably had 6 or 7 new covers that she wanted to do. This book speaks towards mental health and caring for children who have mental health that are adults. And we really worked and asked her, I want you to forget everything that you desired and let's put a cover together that's really going to speak to the reader. And so this is the cover that we came up with, just beautiful. And then the whole entire interior also emulates all the different things. The lotus flower is the symbol of mental health. And so that was there.
Mm.
We rebranded this whole series. It's a 11 book series for the author, and this is what they brought us to start with. And we rebranded it to make sure that every book has its own color, its own flavor, but they all are consistent within the interior. So there's some of the interior as well. When you're looking at your book, you also have to make sure that your back cover is done well. The back cover copy, what images you're using, the text, how it just kind of flows on the back cover. And so here is Sarah Hugh. This is her book, Courageous Trust. And this is bad back cover copy. So my name is Sarah Griffith Hughes, and this is the story of how I learned to trust God through fear, pain, and trauma. I've been through a lot of childhood. I've been through a lot, childhood fears, a traumatic assault, miscarriage, and some really difficult family moments. Through it all, I saw God show up in my life. Sorry. And then it continues on just as bad. So this is good back cover copy. It starts with a hook. It starts with that question. Have you ever felt paralyzed by fear, wondering if God would really use someone like you? In Courageous
Mhm.
Trust, Sarah Griffith Hughes invites you on a raw and honest journey from crippling anxiety to
Mm.
unshakable faith. And then it goes on to explain what they'll find in the book. That captures a reader. So, common mistakes that people often make on their bio is that it's too long or too personal, or it reads like a resume. We want to give them reason to trust you. We don't want to focus on first person. We want it to be like as if someone else is talking about you. We also want it to connect to the book topic. So, here's a bad back cover bio. Sarah Griffith Hughes loves road trips, drinking tea, and spending time with her husband and family. Who cares? We might want to get to know Sarah later, but if I'm picking this book up and I don't know who she is, I want to know why Sarah has the credibility to tell me how to have courageous trust. So instead, we put this on the back cover. Author and speaker Sarah Griffith Hugh empowers women to move from fear to courageous faith through her transparent storytelling and biblical encouragement. With over 2 decades of leadership in women's ministry, Sarah is a sought after keynote speaker at conferences and retreats across Canada. Now she has credibility in my mind because of what her bio says about her. And she's not telling me, the person who put the back cover copy is telling me about it. Book cover spine. This is the number one way you can tell a book is self-published because they have it going the wrong direction.
Oh yeah.
So you can go around the store that you're in today, look at the back covers, you'll see they should all be going the same exact direction. We want to make sure that the title starts on the top and it works our way down with the author name and the publishing imprint on the bottom. So this is one of our books as well. Here we have The Forgiveness Habit by Dean Smith, and his has a nice bright color spine. It's really easy to read. We ended up putting that blue band on it because we wanted to make sure that it stood out. The orange, it kind of got lost even with a dark color. And so to make it stand out, we put the blue band. And then Publisher Message Matters. You can see that the spine is fun. It mimics the colors on the front. So it's still engaging when you can't see the entire book cover, but it shows you that it just brings some interest to it. And this is the book that if you scan the QR code, I'm going to send you a free ebook of it. Here's Come to the Table, again, using that dark imprint crossing over the spine so that it stands out. And then if you use a dust jacket, so God, our founder, you'll see it's just very appealing. Every single piece of it. The back cover has that dark blue square or rectangle so that the back cover copy stands out and doesn't get lost in the image that is surrounding the entire cover. You see that we put the author, about the author inside on the flap of the back cover, as well as what the book is about or some takeaways on the front.
Hi, Miss Athena.
Yes.
This is William, the owner of Gospel Bookstore,
Yes.
and I just I'm hosting the event today, and I just want to say how important what you've said about the spine, because so many spine books are spine out. You have to have something on the spine that's readable. You got to have something on the spine to begin with. And so many times local authors will come in and they got nothing on the spine, and it's like, how are they going to sell their book? People are choosing a book. They might spend seconds looking over, and what you're talking about with that the color strip on the orange to be able to have something to stand out and all of these titles. You're talking about something that is so critical. I can't even tell you how many bad covers I see coming in for local authors that have self-branded. So I just want
Thank
to
you, William.
congratulate you on this. This is amazing. And
Thank
then
you.
one other small thing I just want to add to the local authors, like this young lady that's printed 8 books.
Yeah,
One of
yeah.
the ways that I find a lot of the books, y'all, is at the very bottom where you have the publisher's mark. Okay, so I can go through and see all the books that are made by this particular publisher. So if you've got multiple books, design you some kind of little publisher mark if you're self-publishing and put at the very bottom of your book so that that will stand out if you have multiple copies of a or multiple titles. So thank you very much for letting me interrupt. God bless
Yeah.
you and keep it going.
She's gonna
Thank
be
you.
about my book.
Thank you, Mr. William.
So see, what I'm teaching you is important.
Yes.
So we also make sure, what many of us who have a book, we usually have more than one, and God's given us a ministry. And so what you want to do is try to brand things correctly with your ministry. So this is Brave Enough. Brave Enough has a workbook and a journal, as you see in the first two pictures, but then Mary also wrote her memoir. And so we use the same teal colors and the lotus flower. And then Harriet's Bad Day is the children's book. And we actually, if you could see her red cap kind of towards the right, it has the lotus flower in teal on the cap, which we did with the illustrations. So branding is very important. Here's another one. This is Wilderness Way. This is also a kind of a program or a small group study that works all the way through preschool. You can see the book with the children with the lion on it, children's curriculum, as well as the books for the adults. And they have a Spanish version coming out as well as a youth version. So, but everything looks familiar. The fonts are the same, so we're able to very quickly identify that they go together. Here is the branding for Soul Care that I showed you earlier. Each book has its own color. And then here is the branding for one of our authors, Jamie. She has a Bible study called Esteemed, but now she has a book coming out called Entrusted. It's not exact, but it's similar enough that you know they go together. And then interior designs. There's lots of mistakes people make on the interior. I'm going to go quickly through this, but really be careful. The font choices you choose, spacing between paragraphs. This is a horrible interior. The title, the chapter, everything is too close to the edge. You see the ragged edge, which looks awful. We see widows and orphans. That's where you have just one line at the top or the bottom of the page. And one of my pet peeves is a widow or an orphan in a paragraph where you have one line at the bottom of the paragraph. You can always spread that out. This doesn't have that example, but you never want just one word at the end of your paragraph. You want to expand the leading or the kerning so that you can have at least two words or more. Also, having your header start on the left-hand page. Never have your title page on the left. always have it on the right. The only time you have something on the left is if you are doing a full spread design and it fits together. And when you open it, you see the full spread. Always start on the right-hand side. Here are some good interiors for you. These are just some images. Obviously, the one with the number one on it was on the right-hand side, and then the second page is on the back side of it. This is a two-color print that's beautiful. You have a black and white print that's grayscale. So this is just print on demand, very easy to do, but because we use different colors, you were able to really see how this goes together. Here's another one that has some great design work on it. Where it says chapter one, that's the right-hand side, and then everything just follows suit. So on the back of the chapter page, we actually do have a quote so that there is something on that page. It's not black, but it's more of a pull quote. Oftentimes we'll use a verse so that your layout is just as important as the cover. Here's another one. This happens to be my new Bible study that just released. This is what the interior looks like. Lots of really pretty, pages that have the cover and other elements that are faded out just to give some design and dimension to the book itself. And here is Jamie's book, Esteemed, and using that front cover graphic where it says creation, and then keeping the chapters very simple, but yet giving some elements of subtitles within the chapter, sub-chapter titles to keep the reader engaged. And then oftentimes we do make trim size mistakes. Trim size really does matter. You don't want to pick a trim size that is completely out of your genre. And you don't want to pick a trim size that doesn't fit on a shelf of a bookstore because you want them to be able to display it in the way that they need to display it in their books. All right, almost done. Two more letters and I'm done. S is share your message with purpose. Your goal isn't to reach everyone. It is to faithfully reach the people who need to hear what you've been entrusted. And when we look at the market that way, it becomes less about self-promotion. It's not about promoting yourself. It's all about stewardship. Creating a message for someone is a powerful way to get what God has done in your life out there. But now we have to make sure that there are people that have the opportunity to find it. And finally, H of publish is honor God and everyone who helps you bring your book to life. As we close, I want you to bring you back to where we started. Your message matters, but this journey was never meant to be about us. It's about God and what He's entrusted us with. So, our first responsibility is to honor Him with it. We seek His direction, we remain faithful to His word, we steward every single opportunity that He gives us, and ultimately we remember that whatever impact comes from our words belongs to Him. Because no book comes into this world alone. There may be coaches who help you find clarity, editors who challenge you to make your words stronger, designers who give you that visual identity, publishing professionals who can help you bring all the pieces together. You even have friends and family who give you the space to write, and prayer partners who walk alongside you. And we honor those people. We say thank you. We pay people fairly for the work that they've done. But then we honor the reader. They're giving you something incredibly valuable. They're giving you the time, their attention, their trust, their money. They're giving, so we want to give them what we promised. We want to serve them well. We want to create something that's worthy of the time that they are investing in as they read it. So if your book opens the door, walk them through with humility. If your platform grows, use it to serve. If people begin listening to your voice, remember the responsibility that comes with being heard. It is about stewardship. So here's the review. We started with purpose. We moved to understand because we need to know the publishing options. We built our platform and our foundation. We looked to challenge us to understand our investment. And then we insisted on reminding us that our message and our readers deserve excellence. We share what our message is not just being left on a shelf, and now we honor what brings it back to the heart of God, honoring Him, the message, and the people who help you. My final words is your message matters, your obedience matters, and your journey to get that message into the world matters. So keep going. Now, I know we covered a lot today, and so I want you to know that you can download the book, Publish Your Message Matters. I'll send you that free ebook. It has all of this and more in it. I'll send you um, my slides so that you can go in and read them in more detailed if you're interested. And you can continue to think about your ministry, your message, your publishing journey,
She's
because
talking.
today isn't the end. It's perhaps the day that you're going to decide, I'm going to continue and take the next faithful step. So thank you for letting me be with you and just
I
have a
forgot my
fire hose
phone
of
at home.
information.
Oh
I
well.
appreciate all that you've done, and thank you, Tina, for your invitation.